Welcome to the Sanity Project podcast, the place for internet technology professionals whose work-life balance plan has imploded. We are here to provide solutions that will help the IT pro live a sane, healthy, and prosperous life. Here's your host, Joanne Victoria.
Hi, this is Joanne Victoria with another episode of the Sanity IT Project podcast. The Sanity IT Project podcast is for information technology professionals whose work-life integration plan has imploded, and they want more fun, more confidence, more success, and more inner peace. Our guest today is Terry Wildemann. Terry Wildemann is a highly experienced businesswoman who became a holistic practitioner to heal herself from burnout. Terry is an entrepreneur, facilitator, speaker, business coach, and best-selling author. In her consulting and executive coaching business, Intuitive Leadership, Terry Wildemann works with strategic and practical leaders who know what something is missing, or that something is missing, She develops them into high-performing, unstoppable, and stress-resilient intuitive leaders who awaken the possibilities by tapping into their inner business game and integrating that with their professional and business skill sets. Terry authored 2 solo books. One is The Enchanted Boardroom, Evolve into an Unstoppable Intuitive Leader. The other is 1-800-COURTESY, Connect with a Winning Telephone Image. And she is also the co-author of 2 business consulting books, Unlock the Power of You and The Innovators. Let us all welcome Terry Wildemann to our recording today. Welcome, Terry. How are you?
I'm doing brilliantly well. How are you, Victoria?
I'm just great. Sun shining, no rain, about 45 degrees. Couldn't ask for a better day.
You have it. You have it.
So how are you going to help our IT pros today?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on the show, Joanne. I absolutely love the idea of being able to work with IT pros, because one of the things that those of us who do a lot of IT work is we sit behind computers an awful lot. We have, it is this staring into the lens, staring into the screen, and that becomes our world. It's so easy to get sucked into it. And we tend to get so laser focused, we're not aware of a lot of the other things that are going on around us. And it affects our soul, it affects our emotions, it affects our physical well-being, it affects our relationships, because we've lost the ability to really speak one-on-one with people. It's easier to sit next to somebody and send them a text than open our mouths. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So what I'll be sharing with your IT audience today is how to zap the stress, how to be a more integrated person in how you work so that you can be healthier in mind, body, and spirit, and really elevate your performance in a spectacular way, actually.
That's perfect. It's perfect. It's just what they need. I also have listeners who are not of the IT world, so I'm sure whoever's listening to this is going to benefit.
Without question, they will, because this information is actually generic information for everyone. I burned out multiple times myself, and a lot of the reason why I share this integrated perspective on leadership, intuition, and communication is because when I burned out so many times, I had to take a really good look at myself and say, okay, what is the missing link here? And the missing link in general was I was living in my head.
That's it, because I've burned out several times myself, and I had no awareness about what was going on. It's just that I was burned out. It's that old, you either move forward or go to bed and pull the covers over your head kind of thing, just escape from the world. But once I got into more of the holistic approach, as you were involved in yourself, things changed. So how did they change for you?
Well, when I was living in Chesapeake, Virginia, we live in Newport, Rhode Island now. And I was living in Chesapeake, Virginia because my husband was in the Navy. And I had put my business in the back burner because at that time, the position that he had required me to be quite active and with the Navy and the folks that were associated with our specific command. And so I'm putting the business on a back burner. I kept asking myself, I want to learn how to communicate better with these folks. I want to learn how to be a better presenter, be a better support for my husband and for his team. And you know how it is, the universe, you ask and the universe answers.
Mm-hmm.
And I was invited to go to an ASTD meeting, American Society of Training and Developers meeting. And there was a woman who presented a profile, and I was introduced to the DISC profile, DISC. And she ran a report for me, and the thing was like 35, 40 pages. And I took it home, and I read it, and I had a highlighter and a pencil with me, and I highlighted things that were, yes, 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 that's me. Oh, that's not me. There is no way that's me. No, 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 no. And I put it away. And my kids at that time were 4 and 2. So the kids were in bed and I sat there and just read this thing. Well, about 2 weeks later, my husband was deployed at this time. About 2 weeks later, I'm sitting in my green comfy chair and I decided to take another look at this thing. And I was horrified. Everything that I had said, no, no, no to, I sat there going, oh, yes, 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 too. I did this and I did that and I did this. And I went like, holy moly. Wow.
Was there one thing that really shocked you?
No, there were lots of things.
I'm just wondering if there was one thing, and
no,
then there was
it was not one thing. It was lots.
All right, all right.
I looked at that report and I was like, there are things here I don't really like about myself. And it was spot on. It really was. And so I started studying DISC and I became certified in the DISC language of communications. And this was back in 2004, 2005. I became certified in DISC. And here I am all these years later, still teaching the DISC language of communication and in a much better place than I was then. And a lot of the very things that I kept saying no, no, no to, that's not me, that's not me, that's not me, were the very things that were creating so much of my stress. And it was a real wake-up call. It really was. And that was the beginning of my inner journey.
Well, tell me how the DISC profile that you took and now use and have used, for 10, 15, 13 years, aligns with your perspective on intuition.
Great question. Okay. Each behavior style, the dominant, the influential, the steady, the conscientious, we're all driven by emotions. Emotions drive everything. Even those folks who are very black and white, who say that emotions are not a part of their world. In fact, it is emotion that's driving that black and white world. Mm-hmm. You can't get away from it. That's what we're driven with. And when we realize that emotions are a big part of who we are, when we tap in, regardless of what our behavior style is, when we tap in and listen to our learning, and I need to separate this a little bit. This behavioral language of communication is different than the way we tend to learn. Okay, our learning styles are, the way the visual, the audio, the kinesthetic, they're very connected to the intuition style. So the intuition style can be those folks who are visual, they see images. Those folks who are audio can hear words. Those folks who are kinesthetic feel it in their bodies. And when we connect both the learning styles with the intuition styles that I just talked about, and then merge that with the disc, it becomes a powerful alchemy, so to speak, of information and coherence within ourselves that improves how we make decisions, how we see the world, helps us understand ourselves a lot better than we did before. So it's really important to integrate both sides. They're two actually very different things, but when you integrate them, you become a powerful, powerful, influential leader.
Yeah, and integration is where it's at in most everything.
Yes, it is.
With what you know, what you think you know, who you are, how you act, all of the things that you're talking about. And I don't think people get that enough. The world, a lot of the world acts in a black and white way, in the fact that it's either yes or no, up or down, and they don't go to the middle at all. They don't meld or integrate any of their observations to come up with another perspective. I had a conversation with someone recently, and they said that it was a legal situation. So their perspective on their attorney was that their attorney came from the prosecution end and was now dealing on the other side. And they said that, oh, they're acting just like they did when they were a prosecutor. And my perspective was that they're using the techniques they learned as a prosecutor because they know what the prosecution does.
Yes.
They know how they act. They know,
right.
And they're making you, you're aware of that, but you're looking at it as a negative where I don't know if I said all of that, but you have to look at the macro view, and most people don't look at the macro view of things. They just look at it from, as you say, the emotional perspective, which is their point of view.
Right.
And their judgments and feelings.
And there's another step to that, and this has come up a lot this week with some of the interactions that I've had with professionals. I used to be in law enforcement in my 20s, and my degree is in law enforcement. It's in criminal justice. And one of the things that I share with leaders is when you are in a police officer, a detective, and that's the view I'm going to take, the view of the detective. They go, and I love, oh God, what was his name? Just the facts, ma'am, just the facts.
Sure, Jack Webb.
Yes, Jack Webb.
Yeah.
However, it's more than that. Just the facts, just the facts. Once you get the facts, when you learn to listen to your body, there are so many times the facts land at your feet, or you ask the open-ended questions and people tell you the story, just the facts, and it's very black and white, but your body, either with images or with the audio or with how you feel, there's a gray area in those facts. And when you listen to those intuitive hits that are telling you there's more to this, there's more to this that goes beyond the facts, and you ask open-ended questions and you trust those intuitive nudges, those intuitive hits that come your way, and keep asking questions that keep asking questions, the facts that you thought were so black and white become gray because there's so much more to the story. There's so much more to the situation. And that is what great leaders do.
I was just going to ask you that. How do leaders use this tool, the gray area tool? That's another book for you. Whatever you label it, but the gray area, which is where more people should live.
Yes, and I don't like to use the word should. It's because some people already have that gift. It's about trusting yourself, and that's the key. We don't trust or believe in our intuitive messages, because as children, it's been knocked out of us. As children, people around us, when we say something that's intuitive or speak our truth, we may have a parent or a sibling or a friend or somebody say, "Oh, why do you believe in such nonsense? That's crazy." So what happens is we shut down our gifts. And when we shut those gifts down, we're shutting off a real important part of ourselves that can be easily resurrected when the student is ready. The right teacher for that person will show up. But they need to be open, they need to believe, and they need to learn how to trust in themselves. And when they do that, that's when magical stuff starts to happen. Key 7 in my next book is believe in miracles. And miracles happen when we stay open to the possibilities. And there are tiny miracles that happen and big miracles that happen every single day that start with the moment you open your eyes. Mm-hmm. And the one thing with being in law enforcement is it taught me so much about the miracles. It taught me so much about the possibilities because I had to ask open-ended questions as well as listen to my intuition.
Okay. When people, when you shut the gifts down, I'm looking at that, the child is born an open spirit. And I'm looking back at myself. I know that I don't remember too much about my childhood, but I do recall the essence of wondering, but not having anyone to ask about my wondering. And I think that's why it was all buried. And it took a long time for me to even know that I was intuitive. I'm talking decades until somebody said to me, I was interviewing for something. I was looking for a change in the work world. And I had done several things that I liked, but I was restless. And when I spoke to this particular person, he said, well, you don't need to do that. You're intuitive. You don't need to do all the whatever the mishigas was that I had brought up, all the work and this and this and this. Mm-hmm. He says, you just you just leap forward and do it. Just trust your instincts. I said, what is that? What does that mean? Right. And when, of course, when somebody gives me a new possibility, I'm all for investigating and learning and all that. And I realized, I have been blessed and lucky up to that point because I had whoever, the powers that be, protecting me till I got to the point where I got it, quote unquote. Yes. And I understood that. And because prior to that, I was in a left brain world, a little bit of right brain, but mostly in a left brain world. And there's more to the story, but from a broad point, it was at that point that I started trusting my intuition, trusting my body. In fact, when I was conducting workshops and seminars, and the whole thing was about people where their body felt things and what they felt, and that's where it was held, and that's what we worked on, and only from, again, dealing with my own burnouts.
Yes, we become the teachers. And the one thing that I was talking about, the tour that we had down in Chesapeake, Virginia, that specific tour, when it was over, it took me 6 months to recover. It was that intense of a tour. And what I learned from that tour was I had no boundaries. I kept doing, going, doing, going. And I allowed the phone to ring from 6 a.m. until midnight every day. And instead of saying, okay, my phone is open from noon to 6. If you have any issues, you can call me then. I didn't know how to set boundaries. And because I didn't have boundaries, it affected my health. It affected my kids' health. And I was running around like a chicken without my head on. And as much as I served a lot of people, the most important people in my life, which were my children, my husband was at sea, but which were my children and myself, the three of us were hot messes because our stress levels were so high. And boundaries needed to be in place. And that was my biggest learning there with extreme self-care. We need to put up the boundaries. And when we put the boundaries up, and I call them flexible boundaries. You know, I see people put boundaries up that are so tight that they lose out. They go from one extreme to the other. They lose out on a lot of opportunities and a lot of fun times. With flexible boundaries, you allow yourself to be able to step into the moment and connect the brain and the head and the brain and the heart and go, okay, do I shift this boundary a little bit or not? And you ask yourself the powerful questions. And there are a lot of tools that I use to assess those specific decisions that need to be made. And flexible boundaries allow you to bob, weave, and shift as necessary. Because one thing is people say, oh, it's work-life balance, it's work-life balance, it's work-life balance. There's no such thing as work-life balance. None
I agree.
whatsoever. And,
I agree.
You know, well, I can prove it to you. Imagine a scale in front of you that is in balance. Okay, yeah, like a scales of justice type thing. That scale is in balance. What do you see, hear, and feel?
Are you asking me?
Yes. What do you see, hear, and feel? That scale is in balance.
For me, it's peace.
Okay. And what
Whatever.
else?
I can't feel peace, but I just feel, I feel at ease. I feel no tension. I should reframe that, but I don't feel any tension. I don't hear, actually, I hear silence.
Okay, excellent.
That's pretty much it.
And do you notice anything else? Now the scale is in complete balance.
Emptiness.
I'll share it to you.
Do you help me?
There's no movement.
Oh, silence. Okay, there's no movement.
There's no movement. Is that life?
No.
No, it's not. So that place of quote unquote balance is where we go when we need pause, when we need to shift into our heart, when we need to regroup. But if we stay there, what happens? Nothing, because
Nothing.
there's no movement whatsoever. And that's not the reality of life. The reality of life is learning how to live life from a harmonious perspective. It's work-life harmony. And I did my TED Talk around this. It's work-life harmony. And what happens is we look at work as being separate from our world, separate from our life. Our personal life and our work life is completely separate. But if we look at the word work by itself, if work equals effort, there is effort in sitting behind a computer and working on an Excel document or creating a new app. There is effort in work when we are choosing what we're going to wear in the morning. There's effort in work.
What I was thinking. Exactly. No matter what you do, it's work.
No matter what you do, there's work. It's work. If you're cooking, there's work. If you're driving, it's work. If you're walking, it's work. Every single thing that we do where we're taking action is work. So instead of keeping work apart from us, it's about integrating it and making it a part of us. And understand that where our career is a part of our world. And when we are there, we need to stay fully present. And I don't like to use the word need. It's best to stay fully present in the moment. When we are with our relationship and loved ones, we stay fully present in the moment. When we are in extreme self-care, which is, by the way, stepping into balance and pause, okay? That's part of it. We are fully present in the moment. When we are taking care of our finances, it's about being fully present in the moment and doing that. when we are playing, it's about sitting in that seat and play full out. So when we own where we are in the moment, our lives begin to become more harmonious. And a great way to shift all of that, is to understand that instead of saying have to, I have to do this, I have to do that, I need to do this, I need to do that, I have to. We get on this wheel, this hamster wheel that we can't get off. Mm-hmm. It's about looking at it and flipping the whole thing around and say, I get to play. I get to care for my parents. I get to decorate my house. I get to go take a walk. And it gives it a whole different energy, because there are people around us who don't have parents that they can get to care for. There are people around us who don't have homes to decorate because of the fires, the hurricanes, the floods. I get to decorate my home. I get to take care of my parents. And it just shifts everything.
Well, I want to tell our listeners that they get to rewind this podcast and listen to it again and again, because there's boatloads of information here, boatloads of useful information that you don't have to listen to, but you get to listen to. And if you're smarter than the average bear, you will get to take notes on this and practice it in the real world. Terry has provided a free gift for our listeners, and it is also on my website, as you will see. And it's can be reached at quickshiftzone.com. This is spelled the regular way, QUICKSHIFT zone.com. And it's a download of a focus and stress resilience technique that Terry teaches in her book, and is part of her resilience, goal settings, and decision-making workshops. So, Terry, what would you like to say in closing today?
Trust your intuition and trust your heart. Your heart is always right. And when it seems like something can't, and I don't like to use the word can't, but when it seems that something can't be done, there are always solutions, and your heart and intuition will guide you there if you allow it.
I hope you heard that, people. Trust your intuition, trust your heart, move forward from that perspective. And I thank Terry Wildemann for being with us today. Her website is intuitiveleadership.com. Listen to this, and you can help the world by asking others to download this and listen to this podcast, because Terry's information is priceless and could be pricey if you got her program, but right now you're getting it free. And if you go to my website, you will get a free copy of the True Self Handbook, guidebook to transform your life. And I thank Terry Wildemann for being here today, and have a great day, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Sanity Project podcast. Please go to AskJoanneVictoria.com and continue the conversation on her podcast page. And get a free copy of her book, The True Self Handbook, a guide to transform your life. That's AskJoanneVictoria.com. Take care, and thanks for being here.